Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be learning about animations in QML. Animations are a very powerful feature in QML to animate the elements. You have normally seen when you hover over an element, it should not be very instant, right? There should be some transition, some effects. So animations are just for that. Let me show you one example. So if I go to a website like BioLink, you'll see there is a slight hovering effect here. When you scroll down, so there is some animations here, right? So these are very important to work around with your application to make it more stylish, and the user experience also increases. So we'll be working with that. Now let me run the application. Basic application, right, with a background color of black and a rectangle of green color, which changes based on the width and height. So when I change the width and the height, you will see it's very smooth because I have added the QT window and use the set graphics API method, which I already showed in the previous video, to change the graphic renderer to software for smoother animations when we change the windows height and width and all this stuff, right? So if you see, it's very instant, right? There is no animation or something. So let's say I want to change the animation on the width. Let's say I want it to be slowly filling it, right? So what I will do is, there is a QML element called behavior. Now behavior on what? On width, right? So when the width changes, you can have an animation here which will take place. So for now, I will say number animation, because width is basically a number, and the duration of the animation, like how long it will take. If I say 1500, so it will be 1.5 seconds. So this is milliseconds, right? This duration is in millisecond. So 1500 millisecond is nothing but 1.5 seconds. So if I show you, if I change this application's width, so this rectangle's width will also change. Now if you see, a very slow animation of filling, right? If you see, it's very slow, but yeah. So the standard duration time for all the applications is 300 millisecond or 250 if you are having issue here, but 300 is the standard time, right? So let's see how it looks with 300. As you can see, it's decent enough, it's fast enough, but you can see there is an animation. Now similarly, if you want the animation on the height, so I'll simply say behavior on height. So when the height changes, it will be slow, it will take 300 millisecond to reflect. Now if you increase the height and width both, you will see a change here, right? Now what would happen if you did not give the height? So if I comment this out and run the application once, you'll see that the height is instant, but the width is slow. So if you see, height is instant, right? The width is slow. So that's that. Now there is a property called scale. By default, it's 1, right? Or 1.0. So scale means how you are stretching the application, the factor. So property was the scale factor. If you know what a scale is, let me show you. So let's say by default, your image is this much space, right? This is the width and height of the image. Let's say width is 50, height is also 50, right? Now if you want to set the scale, and the scale by default is 1. So if you set the scale to 2, so it will be double in size. So double the width, double the height. So scaling is very important if you want to expand or shrink the image, both with the width and both with the height, right? So scaling is like basically shrinking or expanding both with the width and height equally, in equal proportion. So scale is for that. So by default it's 1. So let's say I add a mouse area which will change the scale on clicked. So I say mouse area anchors.fill parent. So when you click on the rectangle, it will be changing. So I'll say on clicked, I'll say myrect.scale equals 2, right? Now let's see what happens when we click on the rectangle. Obviously it will be twice as large. Okay, so I think we should reduce this to simply 150 and 150 height. And let's see. As you can see, it becomes twice as large. But when you click, nothing happens because the scale is already 2. So from 2 to 2, there is no change, right? So once you click, the scale becomes 2. and from 2 to 2 it's no change, right? So what we should do is we should set a condition that we use if else. After that we'll use ternary if myrect dot scale is equals to 1. So now it's by default, right? So change it to 2, what we did previously, else otherwise the scale is currently 2, reset it back to 1, right? So initially scale is 1, so you will set it to 2. Again if you click, scale would have become 2, so now you will be resetting it to 1 because this else condition will be applied there. So let's see. As you can see, it's toggling, but the behavior is not very smooth, so we should change the behavior on scale, as you have guessed, because we are working with the scale factor. So behavior on scale is also number, so number animation, or this number animation, simple number animation, duration of 300 milliseconds, which is the standard duration. Let's see. Sorry. As you can see, it's very smooth, but it's also linear, right? So this is linear. So if you want to change the type of the animations, there is a property called easing.type, and using the easings thing we can change. So there is one thing called out bounce. You will see a bouncing effect when it almost finishes. As you can see, there is a bouncing effect. If I change the duration to 1 second, it will be more obvious. As you can see, there is a bouncing effect when it almost finishes. Now if I set in bounce, when it starts there will be a bouncing effect. When the animation starts, then there will be a bouncing effect. I hope you got that. Right, when it starts there is a bouncing effect, and in out bounce means at the start as well as at the end, right? So there is also one called quad which I'll be using. There is a graph for this. Yeah, this is out bounce. These are all the graphs, like, so how the animation happens, like how the property changes, right? So I prefer the quad thing, right? Let me show the quad, in out quad, this one, this S curve. So I prefer that. It's very smooth, right? So I prefer in out quad, right? You can choose any easing type you want, right? Or you can simply keep it linear. So easing dot normal, not normal, I think it's linear, right? Yeah, linear, easing dot linear. So I prefer in out quad. You can choose anything you want. So this was about the scale. Let's change the duration back to 300 milliseconds because it is the standard duration, right? So that's that. After this, let's also work with the color animation. So by default the color is green. Will be toggling between that green color and this yellow color. So instead of scale, it will be color, and as you have guessed, there is a color animation because color is not a number, right? This is something else. So on color, let's do this. myrect.color, if it's equal to this green thing, right, then change the color to yellow, and we have the yellow's hex code. Let's copy that, this thing. Otherwise change the color back to green, right? Because if it's yellow, then change it back to green, so only equal to, right? Now you will see a problem here. Nothing happens because this equal to thing fails, right? Because this is a string and this is a Q color, right? So you have to change it back to Qt.color, and here you have to provide the string. So now it will work properly. When you assign this color, this string is converted to Qt color. So now this works, right? As you can see, there is a smooth transition from green to yellow. It's not instant, right? If you change the duration to 0, you'll see this is instant. But if you change it to, let's say, 1000, you will see there is a slight and very beautiful transition. Right? You got the transition color. So that's that. Let's change it back to 300. Actually, when I say this is standard, it doesn't mean that you should use it. You can also choose 500, whichever looks good. It's not like you should stick to 300. Like this looks good here, right? So 500 is better choice for this color animation, right? Now, sorry. Now, there is a case where you always don't need to use mouse area to trigger the animation, right? Like there must be many other cases like when you use hovering or stuff like that. So let's see another way of using animations. Let's change this, and okay, let's add a button here. Bottom margin of, let's say, 50, and for button you have to import Qt quick.buttons, sorry, Qt quick.controls. I'll be using material. Style. You can use any style you want, and the button text will be change. Change rectangle. We will be seeing what happens, right? So I'll say on click. Okay. So let's handle on click after some time. First of all, let's see if the button is added properly or not. So okay, so anchors dot horizontal center, parent dot horizontal center, right? And instead of text, let's add content item, because the text color should also be changed, right? So here I'll say text anchors dot centering parent. Text will be change rectangle, and text color will be, let's say, white. Let's see now. The button actually does not look very good, guys. I don't know if it's the background or not. I think it's the background. I guess it's the background, but let's change the background also, because right now it looks very bad. Actually, did not want to customize the button, right? It's a waste of time, but what can we do? Let's change the background. Anchors dot fill parent, border dot width 1, border dot color white, and radius of, let's say, 5. I think this should be good enough. Okay, so the color of the rectangle should also be either transparent or, so I'll set it to transparent, or you can change this to this 2020 color. I think this is good enough. Like, looks bad, but we can work with that, right? So when we click on this, something should happen, right? So yeah, sorry. Excuse me. So let's add a number animation here. Now here we are not using any behavior, right? So there should be a target. The target is my rectangle. So target has to be an ID for a component. Now, which property are you targeting? Let's target the width property, right? Property width. So we are targeting width. We can also target multiple properties using this properties. So it will be width, comma height, comma color, right? So for now, let's target the width, and from there is a property called from. So initially width is 150. So from 150 to, let's say, 300, right? And now there is a duration property. Duration is 300 milliseconds, right? So we don't need from, because we know initially the width is 150. No need to mention that, but you can do that, right? So we need to change the width from 150 to 300. Let's change it to 500 because this 300 and 500 will collide, right? So let's change the width from 150 to 500 width, right? Now, this number animation we have to start. So on clicked, I'll say number animation dot start. Let's see. Okay, not my rectangle, guys. This number animation should have an ID. I'll say rectangle animation. Now this animation should start, right? You will see a autofill here. Yeah. Okay, so it will not change back. So if you want to change that, right? So you can say if rectangle animation dot 2 is equal to 500, then change it back to 150. Otherwise, change it back to 500. I hope you got this thing. This 2 is a property. So initially the width should increase to 500, right? So initially it will be 500 because else will be executed. Then after that, because this 2 has changed to 500, it will change it back to 150. So I think we should do this after the start animation. Let's see now. Actually, there was no need to do this, but yeah. As you can see, it works properly. We did this after this start thing, right? Because initially the width is 150 and animation should be 500. Now, if you did this before this start thing, it was 500, so it would change it back to 150. So no progress would have been made, right? So it will be a very stupid thing to do. So that's why I made it after the start. Now there is a property called stop, so you can stop the animation if it's running, and there is called restart. So as you have guessed, restart means stop and then start. So if this duration was very large, let's say 30,000, right? So it would take very long time to finish. Now in between that, if you want to stop that animation and restart again, so you will do that. Now you can also change the duration from outside. So I'll say rectangle animation dot duration equals to, let's say, 700, right? So basic thing, we can change the property from outside, nothing fancy here. So this is one another way of changing the width and height. Now I'll show you with the help of a project. I already had made a code here, right? So there is a slide. If I show my YouTube channel.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my.
Let me forward this. So this is a sliding button. We'll be implementing a slide button, right?
Infinite,
so if you hover it,
animation loop to left, you can change the direction anyhow, right?
This slide thing. So let's implement that. Why did I remove this? No need to remove this. So for implementing that, what I'll do is, let me show you my logic. So okay, so initially let's say this is a rectangle, right? Now we'll place a rectangle here which will cover the full height, but the width will be 0. Now when you hover over this parent rectangle, then change the width from 0 to full width, right? So that is one way of sliding it. I hope you got me, right? So let's say this is, let's say, come on, let's say this is a parent rectangle, right? And here we have a small rectangle here. Initially the width and height is very small, but when you hover over this parent rectangle, let's change the width and height. So it will look like it's sliding, and if you add animation, it will be very slow. So that would look like sliding, right? So let's work with that. So parent rectangle, right? No need for colors. No need for a green color, right? So now, no need for button also. Let's remove this number animation, right? Let's go very simple. First of all, no need for colors. We only have a border dot width 1, border dot color will be golden, which we can copy from this website, this thing. Now radius of 5, and there should be a text inside it. So instead of rectangle, we could have added a button. I think that would have been much better, right? So button. But here we have to change. Okay, let's go with button, button guys, right? It will be a bit hectic, but we should work properly. So all of this will be inside background. So let's say the content item will be text and anchors.center in parent. And also you can have a vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, both works fine. Let's go fast. Change to white, font dot point size of let's say 12. So text is done, right? Font dot weight medium. Let's go fast. Change the background to rectangle. The rectangles will be anchors dot fill parent. No need for that. It will by default fill, but good practice. Border dot width 1. Before that, set the color to transparent. So it will take the default color. Right. So border dot width 1, border dot color. Let's set the width to 2. So the rectangle is a bit thicker. Change the color and also set the radius of let's say 5. Let's see if the button is looking good or not. Okay, this looks very bad. Let's change the height to 40, and now let's see. Also, we should change the text. We should add some text. So Q string translate. Hello world. Let's see. I mean, we could have added a better text. Okay. So for some reason, anchors.centerian is not working here properly. So I'll say vertical alignment. Text.align. Recenter. Horizontal alignment. Okay, because it's taking the full width, so centering does not work. I hope you got that right. By default content item, it will take the full width. So if it takes the full width, there is no centering, right? It will take the full width. So now it works properly. I think yeah. Although there is some issue with the padding here, right? So let's change the padding to 0. Excuse me. I think this has some issue here. Let's see the text. We can either wander over this, or we could like skip this and let's change the height to let's say 60, width to let's say 250, and let's see now. I think this is in the center, right? If my eyes are not wrong. Actually, I think this side is more. If I don't know, guys. Like I'll reduce the width to let's say 60. I don't know. Just be paranoid, but I think the height is like the item is not in the center. But anyway, let's forget that. Who cares? So this is the basically the outer rectangle. Now, sorry, I was a bit paranoid, but let's forget that for now, right? Let's hope this is good enough, right? So otherwise we'll be working with that some other video. We can obviously change the left padding, right padding, and all this stuff, right? So yeah. So anyway, let's skip that. So inside this, there will be another rectangle. it will take the full height, and the width will be initially 0. I'll say anchors dot left, parents dot left. Although this is done by default, so but still for safety purpose. So now it will take the full height. So in a way, this is basically, this is the parent rectangle, and let's see the color. This is our rectangle, right? So full height, but width is 0. So now we have to expand the width on hovering, right? So let's do that. For this button, hover enabled is by default true. Enabled is true by default. So no need for that. Now let's add a mouse area here. Let's call it sliding rectangle, right? Mouse area anchors dot fill parent. Right. So this mouse area is filling this button. Okay, there is no need for actually mouse area. What we'll do is let's add a behavior on hovered, because hovered is a property, right, for this button. So if you hover over the button, it will have this hovered property enabled true. So on hovered, number animation, target, sliding rectangle, property, width, width, 2, from is 0, so initially it's 0, now 2, this width, so 2 myrect dot width, so it will take the full width. Also this rectangle has to have some color, right? So I change the color to golden, exactly this color. Now it should work properly. Duration of let's say 600 millisecond. Now let's see. Event properties and how it is a read only property. Okay, I was wondering if that's an issue. What can be the alternative for this? Let's add a mouse area, guys. I think that would be a much good alternative to this. Mouse area, anchors dot fill parent. Let's hassle, right? And hover enabled true. So this will fill the button. Hover enabled is true. Now hovering has to on entered and on exited, right? So when we enter, let's give it an ID of, let's say, sliding animation. So I'll say on entered sliding animation dot start or restart, right? Now let's see. Sorry. Okay, so when you exit, it should also stop. Like there should be an exit animation also, right? Which will change the width back to 0. It should change the width back to 0. So it will be stop, restore animation, something, restore animation. So it will restore it back to 0. So on exited, I'll say restore animation dot restart. So it will restore. Initially the property was 0. It will change to this width, and again when the hovering is exited, it will set it back to 0. If you got my point, right? So it will look a bit better. Yeah, as you can see, this is how you implement that hovering thing, right? So yeah. Also for this rectangle, the radius should have been 5. Otherwise, you will see a clipping issue. Let's see now. Now you see this is properly working. Instead of 5 I can just say parent.radius, but actually that will not work because this background is not its parent, so I should set it to 5 or set a common property here and use that. So yeah, this is one animation. I hope you are not getting bored. I'll try to implement another button animation and then proceed forward. Obviously this hello world text looks very bad. The color of this should be a bit more darker. This FFD 100 should be much better. Alt, okay, that was the one. Okay, let's choose a darker gold. This one. Now we are just tweaking it. Sorry. I think this is better, right? We can also change the text size, font size to let's say 20, and see if the text is actually simply aligned. Otherwise, I'll go paranoid. I think this is in the center, but I don't know here. Set the left padding to 0, right? Padding to 0, and I think this is in the center. I think I guess I don't know. I think this H is large and D small. That's why I'm thinking like this H is to the left. But yeah, let's go on. No need to waste time here. Right. So this is one sliding animation. Right. After that, we'll be implementing this border animation. So custom buttons. Let's open the video.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel.
Yep. So let's pause
And
this
till
video
it
and move
completes,
forward. Not this. Not this. But for this, I need to show you how to use the layer effect, drop shadow. For I think let's skip that and implement another animation. Um, I think that drop shadow will be much large. So, or can we do that? Hmm. Let's do one thing. Let's forget the drop shadow and only implement the remaining part. So we can do that. Yeah, I guess. So anyway, if you have guessed, like what was happening was this was the normal. This was the normal rectangle, right? But for that we had this thing, and on hovering, it was completed, right? So on hovering, this was completed. So how can we implement that? Very simple, guys. By default, we set this is the top. Like there will be 4 additional rectangles: a top rectangle, a bottom rectangle, this and this. By default, the top will have a width of something, and this one will also have a width of something, right? So, like, I hope you're getting my point, right? So this can be very easily implemented if you change the width from let's say uh, 50 to let's say the full width, and this one also from 50 to let's say full height, right? So very easy thing to do, right? So there will be I think 8 things, right? So this is one rectangle, this is another, this is one rectangle, this is another rectangle, another rectangle, another. So 8 small rectangles, and we have to change the for this we have to change the height, for this you have to change the width, right? So that's that. Very easy thing to do. Let's take it as an assignment. If you cannot do that, I have already added my code here, right? So let me show you what we did that. I think this is called expanding border button. Forget the layer effect. So I set it to 15, right? Border top, left, down, right. So these are all the rectangles, right? So this is anchor top, parent top, and all this stuff, right? So yeah. So there are 4. Also, there is some transition state and property parallel animation. I don't think we can complete that in this video, but should I go on or should I stop? Let me stop and let me add another sub part of this video.